Hey, what's up with you guys right there? I'm Engineer, your favorite oil and gas expert. I'm here again to enlighten you about the meaning and effect of fuel subsidy in Nigeria and other countries, and how its removal should be approached. Try and stay tuned to the end of this video. And do not forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and turn on your notification bell so that you'll be notified anytime I drop a new video. You're welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. Firstly, let's explain to ourselves what subsidy is so that we can all understand what it means when people say they remove subsidy from fuel. So, a subsidy is an incentive given by government to individuals or businesses in form of cash or grants or tax breaks that improve the supply of certain goods and services. With subsidies, customers are able to access cheaper products and commodities. Basically, subsidies are provided by government to specific industries with the aim of keeping the price of the products and services low for people to be able to afford them, and also encourage production, exportation, and employment opportunities. With this explanation, now we should understand what fuel subsidy could probably mean. Okay, let me tell us for those that doesn't know it. Fuel subsidy is a form of government intervention to reduce the cost of fuel by providing direct financial support to oil companies, and as such, subsidize the products to consumers. Now we can see fuel subsidy is a good thing, as the purpose behind it is to make the common citizens afford the fuel and also to make it available for everyone. Also, it should help the economic in controlling inflation. Fuel subsidy isn't a new thing. Almost every country of the world also subsidize their fuel to make it affordable for their citizens. To back this claim, let's hear from the president of LNLC, Comrade Joe Ajuri.
Mr. President, do you think it's realistic to continue payment of subsidy?
Why do you keep on hammering on subsidy? What do you understand by subsidy? Has anybody explained to you the meaning of subsidy? What did they say is subsidy? Is there any country, even in the US, there's subsidy on wheat products? Is there any country that does not subsidize living of people, even if it's by providing public transportation? Well, those are issues we are looking at. If you're a major, producer of crude, and you refine abroad, you carry the crude abroad and refine and bring it, definitely there will be difference in the price, and that's what they are paying.
Also, using data from August 2016, global petrol prices, widely referenced petroleum that monitors retail energy prices in countries around the world, identifies 15 countries that subsidize petrol prices as well. This country includes Algeria, Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Ecuador, Iran, Kazakhstan, Kuwait, Malawi, Nigeria, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkmenistan, United Arab Emirates, and Venezuela. We can see from the listed countries that are still doing well with their economy, despite the huge amounts they pay on subsidizing their fuel. Why is reverse the case in Nigeria? That makes us feel fuel subsidy is a bad thing, as it is not helping the economy. I will explain why. Just stay tuned. Firstly, there's nothing wrong with fuel subsidy as a policy, as Nigeria isn't the only country that provides subsidy for the benefit of its citizens. What is wrong with our fuel subsidy regime in Nigeria is corruption in its management and implementation. Unfortunately, slaves and official frauds has completely taken over and rubbished the process. Hear the interview with Mr. Peter Obi that backed this claim.
We need to remove subsidy because for me it's organized crime. People were just stealing the resources of the country, and that crime has to stop. And I showed my own position in empirical data to show that the amount of fuel we consume is totally far ahead what we're supposed to consume. I showed it in data comparing with countries like Pakistan, and it's very clear. So I maintained about this removal. And
the government pays for phantom products that are never redelivered. If not, how can population of about 200 million reportedly consume about 65 million liters per day where Pakistan, with similar population, reported consumption that is less than one-third of Nigerians. According to World Population Review rankings of fuel subsidies by countries 2023, across all G20 countries, fossil fuel subsidies were approximately $290 billion. For example, China provides approximately $30 billion in fossil subsidies to varieties of companies. Saudi Arabia provides approximately $28.7 billion, and United States provides approximately $20 billion for fuel subsidy every year. We can see fuel subsidy is a global thing in which every country engaged in. The problem in case of Nigeria is corruption in its implementation of the subsidy regime. Another issue why fuel subsidy becomes a huge burden to Nigerian economy is that the refined fuel imported at a great cost from Europe is smuggled across our borders and sold to the West African neighboring countries like Niger, Chad, Benin Republic, Ghana, and Cameroon, where petrol is more expensive because it sells at market prices. This actually is happening because our government unashamedly failed to protect our country's borders so as to stop the smuggling of imported fuel from Nigeria to the neighboring countries. This means the public funds are going directly into private pockets, which no value received from those funds. It is also a massive waste to public resources for the federal government of Nigeria to spend 5 trillion naira on petrol subsidy, which is of benefit for more to the rich and their SUVs than that to the careless poor. Hear from the chairman of NMPCL, Mr. Memen Kyari, to support this claim.
Mr. Kerry, many people are of the view that the common man are the ultimate beneficiaries of the fuel subsidy regime and they will suffer. And the suffering has begun because of the price of transport across the board. But there are other people who say that subsidy only benefit the rich and that it is subsidizing the rich people. Where do you stand in this conversation or this debate? And what's your thought in terms of ameliorating the suffering of the poor?
Yes, first of all, let me explain what it means when we say the rich benefit from this. But I'm sure if you look at our statistics, over time, just go take a look at the statistics of the evacuation from depots, of the volume of products that go out. By sheer, not coincidence, this is not accident, you will see that the huge volumes goes to locations where you have higher standard of living in the country. I don't want to mention names of those locations. When you check, you will see this. And therefore, almost 48% of the total evacuation or the consumption in this country goes to practically few locations where essentially the elites live. And of course, that means that all of us are subsidizing that small community of people. And it's very reflective. When you come to Abuja today now, you see convoy of cars, of executives, of politicians, of government leaders, of business leaders of all sorts. You see convoys of 5 to 6 cars, consuming up to 100 liters each. And of course, the meaning of this is that we are actually subsidizing this.
This subsidy scam becomes so embedded that Nigeria's revenue depressed from oil price shocks and weak fiscal management, especially as low ratio of tax to GDP profligates borrowing to pay subsidies on petrol importation. We are now debt distressed, as repaying our debt is consuming 96% of our earned revenues, according to the IMF. What do we call borrowing to pay subsidies that generates nothing we can utilize to repay our debts? These are tangible reasons why most Nigeria are clamoring for fuel subsidy removal. Hear what the president of African Development Bank, Mr. Akinwumi Adesina, also said as regarding the removal of fuel subsidy.
Debt is paid using revenue, and Nigeria's revenues have been declining. Nigeria earns revenue today to service debt and not to grow. The place to start, therefore, is to remove the inefficient fuel subsidies. Nigerian fuel subsidies benefit the rich, not the poor. Fueling theirs and government's endless fleet of cars at the expense of the poor. Estimates show that the poorest 40% of the population consume just 3% of petrol. Fuel subsidies are killing the Nigerian economy, costing the economy of Nigeria $10 billion alone in 2022. Now that means that Nigeria is borrowing what it doesn't have to borrow for.
Removal of fuel subsidy is also a good thing for a country whose economy is crumbling already. There are also other good reasons for removing fuel subsidy, like if there is a development of renewable energy, energy sources. A country might decide to remove fuel subsidy since few people will be relying on fossil fuel. But for Nigeria, we want fuel subsidy removal because the implementation is corrupt. Now, we want the removal so badly because of the numerous reasons I've listed. Luckily, the new Nigerian president, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, announced the total removal of fuel subsidy during his inauguration speech on the 29th May 2023, resulting in high in prices and long queues nationwide. The fuel jumped from the official pump price of 185 naira, which is about $0.4, to 550 naira, which is about $1.818. This is expected to have widespread economic consequences in Nigeria, where 133 million people live in multidimensional poverty, according to the United Nations. Although we all agree to the removal, but the approach is somehow strange. This removal of fuel subsidy is actually an effective option as we begin to see the effects on the neighboring countries such as Benin Republic and Niger Republic, where the price of the petroleum products are being sold for 700 sefa or 800 sefa, nearly double their previous price of 450 sefa because of the removal of fuel subsidy in Nigeria. That's funny, right? This gives the fact to the claim that a significant volume of Nigerian subsidized petroleum products was smuggled into other African countries. Also, reports by DW noted that vendors in Cameroon make huge profit from illegal sales of fuel smuggled from Nigeria. That's the main reason why some of the Cameroonians came out in masses to protest when Nigeria announced the removal of fuel subsidy, because they know that they will stop smuggling of Nigerian fuel and it will definitely affect their businesses. In Cameroon, fuel from Nigeria sells from 350 sefa, while fuel from Cameroon sells for 650 sefa in petrol station. Essentially, Nigeria has been subsidizing local and foreign black marketers and the citizens of neighboring countries, while also catering to the consumption of the wealthy, which is very bad and affecting our economy. All this makes Nigeria feel we are making the right decision about the subsidy removal, but one legitimate criticism against the government is just announcing it and not putting any plan in place. This approach for the fuel subsidy is already proving to be widely unpopular among citizens, as no one has ever seen this type of approach by any country of the world. So that's why I made series of research to find out countries that has engaged in the removal of fuel subsidy before and how they approached and addressed that issue, which makes it successful. So we have countries like Ghana, Malaysia, Indonesia, Egypt, Iran, Morocco, and so on, which has used almost the same approaches to tackle this same issue, which has given them positive results, in which I think we should have used in Nigeria. Normally, when the removal of fuel subsidy is announced, it is expected to have a hike in price of fuel, in which will surely affect other sectors and businesses. So, in order to avoid frustration, people coming out to protest, shutting down the streets, and to avoid different controversies, there are things to be put in place. Yeah. First thing is that there should be a proper and credible planning to the removal of fuel subsidy, and the government should engage in public dialogue with the citizen by communicating the huge cost of the fuel subsidy and the benefits of its removal to the population before implementation. This is actually essential in a country where there is already a lack of trust between the people and the government, like Nigeria. So communication is very critical. Second thing to put in place is that government should quickly implement post-subsidy programs that could include measures to reduce the cost of public transportation in near term and also communicate its palliative plan beforehand for reducing the burden of the eliminated subsidies. The third thing on my list, which is the better way to do energy reform, is by providing direct cash transfers to compensate individual citizens for the rise in energy prices, which can be a win-win solution through the Energy Compensation Transfer (ECT). This ECT enables households, especially the poor and the vulnerable, to absorb the shock and relocate resources as per their need by removing the arbitrage between subsidized and market price. ECT can also reduce corruption, improve distribution, and incentivize effective use of energy. Countries like Iran, India, Jordan, and Dominican Republic has been relatively successful in this type of reform. The last thing is that Nigerian government must implement a transparent system for redirecting and monitoring the use of funds from fuel subsidy program so that its citizens can review and scrutinize the expenditure. Let's hear from Ms. Adeola analyzing on TVC News on how the government should manage the fund generates from removal of fuel subsidy.
The fact that government is going to be saving a lot of money from not paying subsidies, we would see a lot of relief in other areas, healthcare, education, infrastructure, if the government decides to be prudent with the savings that they're going to get from subsidies. So there has to be a mechanism in place with the incoming government to ensure that there's a dashboard which states this is how much we're saving from shipping and all the ancillary costs that was involved when we were importing and exporting. And these are the savings from subsidy. And this is exactly how we plan to use this money to reduce the stress and the inconvenience and the additional cost of subsidy removal.
The government has actually announced its intention to redirect the funds from the subsidy into infrastructure, support for small businesses, and safety net programs. This is a step in the right directions, but the success of these programs rests on having proper oversight and participation of civil society. I'm so sure if all these are implemented correctly, the subsidy funds could lead to a major development gains and also can later create a space for Nigeria to finally develop refinery capital and consequently increase its potential revenue from oil sector and create jobs. Yeah. I expect that in the days and weeks ahead, the Tinubu administration will roll out robust relief and intervention schemes if all these approaches are implemented to caution the effect of the subsidy removal. I urge them to do this boldly and speedily. Thanks for staying tuned to the end of this video. Do me a favor by pressing that likes button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on your notification bell so that you'll be notified anytime I drop a new video. Thanks and bye for now.